Make-A-Wish employees, what was the most strangest thing a Make-A-Wish kid asked for and actually received? I helped host a visit to a planetarium by a kid whose wish was to go to the moon. The front office folks thought I could just give her a personal tour of the planetarium and show her some nice high-resolution visuals, but I thought she deserved better than that. I commissioned a jeweler friend and meteorite enthusiast to make a silver crescent moon necklace, which he graciously donated to the cause, and I donated a small lunar meteorite from my own collection. It was a gorgeous necklace, very much to the credit of my friend's artistry and generosity. We couldn't take her to the moon, so we gave it to her instead. She was thrilled, but later said her real highlight of the trip was the astronaut ice cream. Kids. My daughter was a Make-A-Wish kid. She asked to go to Australia to meet the Wiggles. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to travel that far. We live in the US, health-wise. She made a second wish, to meet Captain America. We never told Cap that he was a backup wish after the Wiggles were a no-go. LOL. I worked at a hospice and we had a wishing program. One of our patients, 24-year-old with brain cancer, wanted to hold a sloth. Apparently, sloths are very nervous creatures, so it's a little tricky to actually hold one. I found a local company that does visits to schools and whatnot who had a sloth. Sloths only poop about once a week, and the sloth could only travel the day after he pooped, because they get nervous any longer than that, and the sloth has stress diarrhea. So basically, we had to wait until the sloth pooped and then set up the visit for the next day. The sloth pooped on Thanksgiving, so we set up the visit for the next morning. The patient was able to hold and pet a very sweet sloth. The patient died about 3 weeks later, and I am very happy I was able to help give her some joy in her final weeks. Edit. Wow, guys, I did not expect this to blow up. Thank you so much for the awards. The hospice I worked at had a special program called Faithful Wishes for any of our patients, regardless of age. As the volunteer coordinator, fulfilling these wishes was part of my job. I do believe there are other non-profit organizations that grant wishes to adults, but nothing as large as Make-A-Wish. Yes, the sloth was tame and lived in an animal preserve. He would also visit schools and retirement communities, schedule permitting. And yes, I absolutely learned more about sloth bowel movements than I ever wanted to, woman shrugging. I swear my youngest would make a wish like this. He got Benadryl in hospital once at 1 a.m. and they told me it would probably make him pass right out. Well, in children it sometimes does the opposite. He was wired, so here's this 3-year-old who can't sleep in the middle of the night, demanding, "Mom, I want a pickle party." I worked at a Lego retail store in the 2000s and Make-A-Wish approached us for a child with terminal osteosarcoma who wanted to be in the store for a day. Lego unfortunately denied the request, which surprised myself and the rest of the staff because Lego was a pretty great company. Staff decided to honor the request ourselves. We closed the store early on a Sunday, then invited the kid and family in. He had a full run of the store. We collectively paid for like $1,000 worth of toys for him to take home, and just spent the entire evening building what he wanted. He died a few months later, crying face. In Wizard 101 there's a quest with an NPC named Brandon, named after a Make-A-Wish kid who played the game, and his request was to design a side quest for the game. You meet Brandon and go help him clear out this dungeon with 2 really fucking hard bosses, was a load of fun. At the end you get a gem you can socket that lets you summon Brandon into battle as a follower, pretty cool. Not sure what ended up happening to Brandon, but it's really cool that thousands of PPL have gotten to enjoy being a part of his wish tbh. Hess not the only Make-A-Wish kid in the game either. I know one of them passed away, but he was in the Dino world so I don't think that's Brandon. After a quick Google, I mostly stopped before the first arc was even over so details are a bit hazy, and the family issued a statement saying how grateful they were that they'd always be able to visit him in game. Not Make-A-Wish, but my brother got terminal brain cancer when he was 18. He was given 3 to 6 months to live. Back then his only wish was to be an NFL player. But he was 5'A", all heart. He was just like Rudy in that Notre Dame football movie. He fought it for 6 years. Somewhere around his 22nd birthday he and I were talking about having something worth living for. I told him it didn't matter what it was, but a vision for the future that he would fight for was important, and encouraged him to find something to give his life to. We went on a vacation soon after that, and because we were broke from medical bills and 4 years of battling cancer as a family, this was a huge deal. We hadn't had a family vacation for a long time. A family friend put us up in their beach house and gave us some money to have a good time there. My brother came alive on the trip. It was so impactful to him that he came home and decided to start a non-profit organization. He called it A Week Away. It was very similar to Make-A-Wish, Terminally sick patients apply and benefit from an all-expenses-paid vacation with their family or group of caregivers. That was a big deal to him to include the family because, if you've ever gone through something like that, you know it's not just the patient who suffers and loses their freedom, it's everyone they are close to. He worked his ass off to start the organization. He formed it and began sending families to places like the Outer Banks and Ocean City and other East Coast beaches. A week before he died, he launched his first big month-long fundraiser. He passed away knowing that he had raised enough to send like 10 families on respite weeks. It was like he was passing the baton off to others who could keep on fighting. The org is still going strong today. If anyone is blessed to have their health and a sweet vacation spot you'd like to donate for occasional use by sick people all coordinated by an awesome organization, I'd encourage you to reach out to the A Week Away folks. You get to play a part in people's lives like the awesome people helping in these Make-A-Wish stories. I was approached by a similar organization who wanted to arrange a day for a kid to shadow a veterinarian. I'm just a small animal veterinarian with a small hospital, so I found it odd that I'd be approached. I said yes, who TF would say no? And we picked a day and had our regular patients in the hospital, and the kid got to watch us do our thing for a day. We gave him a lab coat and a stethoscope and let him tag along and see x-rays and ultrasounds and watch surgeries. I brought my dog in so he could try the ultrasound on her. He seemed to enjoy it. It wasn't a terribly strange request really, it just seems like my day-to-day isn't something anyone would consider their dream experience. I was a chef at a fancy steakhouse in Jacksonville, Florida. One day my proprietor came to me and said, "This is Stacy, the new girl, she'll be training with you." I look over and it's this adorable little girl in bright pink chef coat. I babysat my little cousins at the time, so I was actually pretty used to entertaining 10-year-old girls at the time. So I showed her the ropes. We made all kinds of stuff that were on the surface kind of random: candied bacon, cornbread, prosciutto wrapped Brisson cheese stuffed asparagus, a sweet tea brined pork chop, a sorrel garnish salad type thing, and some other cool garnishes. We were having fun. I then made a puree out of the cornbread, let her plate up the dish a few different ways to show how you can play with ingredients and height to showcase different parts of the dish. She had a blast. It was only at the end when the father came up to me in tears that I realized what was going on. In the moment I was a little upset because nobody told me. But I realized after it was for the best. I probably would not have been as bright and vibrant with the lessons had I have known. But it was a fulfilling experience for sure. I hope their family is doing well. Side note, I have reworked and re-ran the dish as a special a few times in memory of that day. It was that impactful. I had a wish to go to England where they were filming Harry Potter number 4. That's it. Just to go to where they were filming. Got a first-class trip on British Airways, stayed in London for a week, did a full day at the studios where I got to eat lunch in the canteen with all the actors and extras. Sat next to James and Oliver Phelps, met Alan Rickman who almost dropped his tray to say hi to me, watched the scene after Harry's name gets pulled from the Goblet of Fire get filmed and got a headset to watch it like the director was. Had a 5 to 10 minute chat with Dan Radcliffe complete with a hug. 13-year-old me thought I might just die right there. Got one of his used gym shirts which I still wear, and my own robe fitted for me by wardrobe. Overall it was a really amazing wish. Edit, because I'm getting this question a lot and it's a really common misconception that I'd love to clear up since I think this is actually really important for people to know. It's actually a myth that Make-A-Wish is only for the terminally ill. It's actually for any child who is critically ill. The way it was explained to me a long time ago was that it was for kids who have a lot of weight on their shoulders due to a medical condition to get a chance to get away from that for a little while. I had a coworker at my student job in college who had leukemia as a child. He wished to be in the Iditarod, so they flew his family to Alaska, and he got to meet all the dogs and ride in a sled for a leg of the race. If I remember correctly, he also got a husky puppy. He was 20 when I met him. I was a couple of years older and graduated college and never saw him again. The leukemia came back and he died in 2016. I don't think he was much older than 25. One of the nicest guys I've ever met. I hope heaven is real just for you, Ben. When I was on a carrier, they flew a kid and his parents out. They routinely fly distinguished visitors, but we thought it was weird there was this kid. They got tours and watched flight ops, but he couldn't fly with us, so they asked us to have dinner with him so he could at least meet pilots and ask questions. It was really humbling when we realized this is what he was there for. He literally wished to just come see what we do and hang it with us. I did a medical sustainment course at Fort Drum in February a few years ago. This one particular day was medevac training. Our certification for loading patients into the Black Hawk coincided with the Black Hawk flight crew's training to receive patients. We would wait for it to land and get guidance from the crew chief, carry the patient, lifelike dummy strapped on the litter, up, and essentially move away. It was honestly a bit boring. Needless to say, it was freezing cold with feet of snow and ice on the ground. Standing there with the wind whipping at us from the blades of the helicopter was not very fun. We were all miserable, and in between iterations, we were just talking about things that would make us happier. I happened to mention that I've always wanted to fly in a helicopter. I guess the right person overheard, and the course instructor grabbed me and told me to limp up to the Black Hawk when it landed next. He told the flight crew that there's a Frago and I'm a walking wounded who needed evac.